Hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abbie Campbell, and we will be diving into the world of live entertainment. We will uncover what it takes to put on a show, and artists will reveal their stories of how their creations went from idea to reality. We are determined to uncover everything that happens before the curtain. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm so excited. All right. Originally from Los Angeles, our guest today worked as a child actor performing in shows like The Wonder Years. He trained in musical theater with the original Broadway lead in Aida, Damian Perkins' Neptune, and Evan Rachel Wood's acting coach, Andrew Magarian. He became a professional dancer and has performed all over the world, but found his home on the Las Vegas Strip where he worked for 10 years before circling back to his acting roots. For the past 9 years, he has been very active in the independent film scene. His latest film credits include the horror thriller feature film Darkest of Lies, where he was nominated Best Supporting Actor, Ruthless, and Attack of the Unknown. In addition to acting, he also writes, directs, and produces independent films. As a producer, his short film Burrow won Best Short Film at the 2019 Hollywood Dreams Film Festival, along with several other notable awards and nominations. His feature film, The Christmas Cabin, was voted the #1 Christmas movie in Nevada in 2021. But, my friends, we have him here today to share with us his most recent creation, the TV show A-List Casting, which won the Best Pilot Grand Prize in the Silver State Film Festival. And Season 1 is currently available to stream on YouTube. I'm going to have to re-record this intro.
You're great. It's
great. Without further delay, my guys and dolls, please help me welcome to the mic, Michael Forsh.
Hey. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Abbie.
Absolutely. So I'm getting right into it. When did A-List Casting become an idea?
So I was working on another short film with an amazing executive producer and actor, Chuck Prater. We met on doing a scene, and I was like, man, this dude is so funny. And that's all I thought at the time. And then I saw him again at an audition, and we were having a good time and talking. I was like, hey, you know what? We should work together. And he's like, you know what? We should. And we just set up a meeting, and he brought me this idea for the show. And he was like, it's about casting. Originally, is a casting couch. I'm like, well, we can't really do casting couch, but let's find a word title with an A or a B name, because that helps with promotion and when people are searching shows. So we had a bunch of we got a couple of writers, and we just started working on it and sort of went from there, and A-List Casting was born.
Amazing. And it sounds like it was probably a pretty easy, now I could be wrong, to find the writers and find people to jump on board?
We went through a couple of different iterations. We had one person in mind, and it just didn't quite work out for them. They were too busy and were doing other things. And so I had worked with another writer and a script that he had done many years ago, and it was actually a drama that the script was, but he had some very interesting comedic moments and stuff, and I was just like, oh man, this guy's pretty funny, and he's just very fast. So I reached out to Nick Adams, who he's the head writer, and he has a created by credit in the show. He was like, actually, funny that you ask. I had an idea for a show about casting directors. So from that, it just sort of was very lucky, and he just threw something together with our ideas and his ideas, and it was we suddenly had a sandbox to play in.
Wow, that's so synchronistic.
Yeah,
it just happened that way. What was the easiest part about creating this show?
Oh man, the easiest part. Well, nothing's easy about film, let's be honest. I guess the easiest part is always just working with the team that we assembled, because it's never been this, everything is so hard and this person's being so difficult, and gosh, everybody's you experienced it somewhat on set, how we work and what it is. And it's just I think the easiest thing is having a great crew to rely on and collaborate with. And that's on purpose, making sure that we have the right people in place to make sure we can succeed.
That's great. That is very lucky because not everybody can say that
Yeah.
about the people that they work with. And it again sounds like, and I say that because I only know so much, that everything kind of just fell into place. Would you say everything from after finding a writer to finding the rest of your team was pretty easy, or people just kind of showed up and were like, hey?
No, people don't just show up. Generally, what happens is I'll work with people on other projects or other things. And I've had a long partnership with Quantum Arc Media, Dustin Robinson and his wife, Kate, and they've who I produce all of my projects with for the most part. And Dustin is an amazing cinematographer. He's like one of my favorite cinematographers to work with. And his wife, Kate, is an amazing producer. And she's also a graphic designer and all that stuff. And so through Dustin is actually kind of where I got my start. And I learned a lot about production because I come from the talent side of things. Like I was an actor first and a dancer first. And then I was like, I have these ideas and I want to tell stories and stuff. And will you help me? And he's like they've been great about like, we want to support arts in Nevada and give and help grow the artistic community. So through him, I sort of started working on his projects on the production side and learned how to produce and learned how to be an assistant director and learned how to be a line producer and all of these different, and I've done everything from him, from grip to sound guy to like, he just throws me in there and was like, well, good luck, friend. But in the nicest ways possible. Dustin's awesome. But through him, I sort of like branched out on the production side and sort of like kind of collected the people that I like to work with and are also really good at their jobs and also just want to be on a really cool project because, we're not making these things for a lot of money. It's, everybody's getting paid, but it's not getting paid a lot. But these professionals who are working in the industry, in the film industry and all other places, they just like being part of something cool and fun. And that's the whole point, is to make a really great environment for everyone to share.
And what's fun is that you've created that environment, and I can say that because I was there just for a little bit. But also the show is also so lighthearted and funny, but also so real at the same time. And it has I feel like it has that perfect balance of realness, like comedy, but also it's lighthearted. It's not too serious, it's fun to hear that the environment, it sounds like, that you guys have been in has been supportive, and that has shown through your work.
Yeah, I think it shows in the show how much just love there is on set, and everybody's like, so willing to work like such long hours and stuff and just be a part of it. So I really think it shows. And that's the whole point, is this is supposed to be fun. And if it's not fun, then we shouldn't be doing it. And that's why I'm always like, everybody's going to be fed well, everybody's going to get paid something, and everybody's going to be treated well. And that's, you kind of have to start there, and it starts from the top. And I talk a lot about with my co-creator, my co-director, Zach, and it's like accountability starts from the top. So we have to be the first ones there. We have to know all of the details, and we have to be super nice to everybody. And if you can and work well with everybody. And if we can accomplish that, then it kind of trickles down and everyone else will do the same and follow suit.
You've created a great root for the tree to grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need people in the world like you.
I don't know. I'm passionate about art and filmmaking and stuff. And I have a lot of fun doing it. And I want to make sure that everyone else is having a lot of fun doing it. And I've been in tons of circumstances where it hasn't been that way. And I'm like, gosh, if I ever get the chance to do it, I want to make sure that it's run well and that we're not wasting people's time and that people are getting something out of it.
And again, from my experience with you, you've definitely done that, even in a day. The afternoon, evening, I wasn't even there the whole day.
Yeah.
It was exactly what you said. And I think that's absolutely incredible that you saw a hole missing in the world or in a space that you wanted to, I guess, fix. Phil, and you made that happen and have made that happen and continue to make that happen. So much applause, standing ovation to you, because again, that's just amazing. How long did it take from you having the idea of the show and having those first conversations to actually starting it?
So my timeline, I'm not like totally sure. I really like, because people have asked this or I talk about it a lot, but I I believe the first iteration of it was 2019. We started off with, we wrote 4 full-length scripts, and then we sort of tried to combine everything and produce a trailer to pitch the show to networks and distributors and such. I want to think that's it. It might have even been 2018, so therefore it would be like 6 years, but it's been a long road. We've been working on this project for a really long time. So from there, we did the trailer, we showed it around, and people were like, oh, yeah, we really like it. And we had one person that we had a connection with who's a showrunner and stuff. And we showed it to him for feedback. And he's like, this is great. I'd love to see a pilot of it, and we can go from there. And we're like, awesome. I guess we're making a pilot. So we made a full 25-minute length or 20 something minute length pilot for to show off like what a full episode would be like. And it was great. Like, it did well in film festivals, and we ended up showing it to the network executive person that we had a connection to, and he was like, I don't know, something changed between then and by the time we finished it. And he was like, okay, cool, yeah, what you should do is go do film festivals. And we're like, cool, so you're not going to help us? Awesome. Well, that's just how kind of Hollywood is. It's a yes until it's a no, or it's a no until it's a yes. And I don't count on anything until there's a signed contract and money in the bank, because other than that, it's just words.
Preach.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so from there we went to, we took the pilot and we shopped it around. We took it to distributors and we're like, hey, this is our concept and we want to make this thing big, like, let's get us on Hulu or Netflix or whatever. And this is why I tell indie filmmakers, do feature films, don't do TV, because TV is very expensive and it's very consuming, and it costs a lot to just make one episode, and you need to make a full season, which is a lot longer than a feature film. And if you don't have the money to make a full season, then it's really hard to sell. So like, all the distributors, we had 3 distribution offers, but none of them wanted to give us money to make the full season, which is kind of just the state of independent film these days. Like, they would love to take your project if it's done and, make money off of it, but they're not going to give you, distributors are not going to give you any of their money anymore. So I think they still do sometimes, but generally, if you're an unknown, they're not. Like, you just have to do it yourself. So we were like, cool, well, let's try and get funding. And, we went through all the different iterations of, what that looks like to do a full season. And eventually we just came up with, let's do what we can with the project. And what we came up with is doing mini episodes. So 2 to 5 minutes as what all of our first season is. And, that's what we could afford to do. And we just did 4 episodes a day for 2 days of shooting, which is insane. I mean, you kind of witness what our shooting schedule is like. It's crazy. And we did the full season like that. And that's sort of like how it's kind of gone through. And now we're moving on to season 2. Hopefully it'll coming out this fall.
Insert applause. And was there any point in all that journey where anybody in your team, maybe also including you, were kind of like, you know what, maybe we should just give up?
I mean, no, I mean, the thing that's tough is like, and wow, I'm like stammering here because I at any point we could just walk away, right? We're always just like, how much are we willing to stand up for this project? How much do we believe in it? And there's a lot of people on the team that are like, this is a good project. It deserves a shot. It deserves a chance. And, it really is up to our executive producer and about like, okay, well, we got to take a shot, but how many shots are we going to take with it? And really, it's never been like, are you going to walk away? I don't feel like we've ever like fully had that conversation yet of like, well, we've shot our shot and we've heard too many no's and it's never going to happen. It's always been, okay, well, what can we try next to get this project out there? And for the longest time, no one's seen the full pilot really, unless it was in festivals. No one's seen, like barely anybody have seen the trailer. We never released the original trailer. It was all just to show the industry. And so eventually now we did a new trailer off of the pilot, and that one has been out on YouTube and everywhere, and it's awesome. Like we actually have had two versions of that trailer, and we brought in a friend of ours, one of our producer, David Rodriguez. He had an industry friend who does these trailers for like big networks and stuff, and a guy named Matt, and was amazing, and he just threw it together, and it's like such a good trailer, and people watch it and get excited. So it's always been, every time we get told no, it's like kind of like, well, it's never been a question of, are we doing this or should we just walk away? It's been, okay, like what can we do next? What's the next thing to try? So, I mean, we'll see what happens with the YouTube. I'm hoping that we can build a big enough fan base to actually start generating income so that we're not just having, investing money with no return. That's a big thing. And that's been the goal. This last one is like, okay, well, I don't want to have somebody spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the season with still no guarantee of return of money. So that's why we're doing the YouTube thing. If we can grow the fan base and it gets a monetized channel and we get ad sponsors in the video, then the thing can start paying for itself. And then we'll keep going. So that's really why I'm going on every single podcast and talking to every single person. And so far it's doing really well. Like we have over 1,000 subscribers now, and it's only been out for a few months. So it's good.
It is so good. And again, I'm going to say it again. It's so cool to hear that. It sounds like so many of your morals and values not only show up in how you produce, but also why you're doing it. And also like that you guys all seem to be on the same page if you all have that like, well, what are we going to do now? Instead of like, well, we can't do it anymore. So it's really cool to see how deep your guys' roots go within each other and with all kind of being within the same mindset and perspective of the project that you're working on. And that's also really cool.
Yeah. I think artists need to have that tenacity. Sometimes some people are incredibly talented and they rarely get told no. But the reality is for almost all artists is you have to just persevere and create your art and get told no a million times. Like I'm sure you've auditioned a ton, and I have too. Like as an actor and as an artist, it's just part of the deal. And I almost feel like the people that get told no a lot, but eventually do get to shows are so grateful and so inspired, and so they're the ones that work the hardest, and they are the kind of people that I like to give a chance to. The ones that I can tell that they've been grinding and working so hard to get there. And some people are lucky and they just get it. They're so talented they can just jump from project to project to project and get told yes and have the right connections, and kudos to them. Like I would love to be in their position, but the reality is most people aren't that way. And so you gotta everybody, most of the time you just gotta fight and keep going and try to get better.
Amen.
Yeah.
We're going to see where this question goes. So why Vegas for this show?
Great question. Mostly it's of convenience, to be brutally honest, because I live here and I've developed community of friends and people. And so a lot of the projects that I do are just based in Vegas because it's less expensive to produce things here. Like the cost of living is lower. People don't expect, as higher rates because of that. Things are cheaper to rent most of the time. And there's a lot of people that are just willing to do something cool and not necessarily like, oh, well, I need to get my rate because I have to be working and do all this stuff. And I grew up in LA and I know how hard it is to make things there. I have friends that are still doing things, but that are working in the film industry over there. But and it happens here too. But in LA, and they're often working so hard just to make rent and just to continue their normal living that they don't have time to work on creative projects, which is super unfortunate. Or yeah, so I think Vegas was just like, and it's such a interesting town because it's a really small town with a lot of talented performers and interesting weird people and weird personalities. This draws a lot of interesting people. So yes, convenience, but also I think it does make an interesting thing to make a show about. Like, what is a casting agency in Vegas like, as opposed to, and people are going to get mad when I say casting agency, but I guess you can, I don't know. Some people are like, well, there isn't such a thing as casting agency, but there generally is like casting directors. But really, if you have more than one, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth about calling it a casting agency, but it's just easier to say that than a show about casting directors, which is weird. Anyway, I just went off into like some weird path.
I understand though, but there's still companies that like specialize and work with like different shows to cast for them.
Right. Yeah, I think, but a lot of the time it's like a casting director has her name on it or their name on it, and then there's people that work under them.
Mm-hmm.
There's not like generally a casting agency that's called, ABC casting or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like casted by blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But,
anyway,
we're making a fun
mm-hmm.
like show. So we don't want it to be like the Henry and Chuck show. We want it to be, that's why it's called A-list casting. And it's about two casting directors and their assistant, and they were blackballed by Hollywood for some nefarious reasons that, we may or may not find out about in future seasons. And they are stuck here in small-time Las Vegas working with all the weird and quirky actors and acrobats and drag queens and all of that kind of crazy stuff. And they're desperately trying to get back into Tinseltown's good graces, doing erectile dysfunction ads. So, or whatever else it takes. And it's, it's just it's like an interesting concept.
It is. Was Vegas the first like city that you thought about basing the show around?
Again, yeah, it was the only choice because, I lived here and most of the team at the time when we started it, they're all here. So why not make it about where we're from? And also that people have a kind of a pride about being, Vegas strong and born and raised and all that stuff. So like we like to tap into that as well.
Oh yeah, if there's something Vegas loves, it's itself. Vegas loves Vegas.
And why do you think I live here? Because I love myself too.
I just live here for the confidence boost.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's funny. So I have to ask the irony of the question because your show is called A-list casting. What was the casting process like for the show?
Yeah. So that's one thing that I talk with our producers and my co-director, Zach, is like, this show's about casting. So our casting always has to be on point. And we take it very serious. Like for a comedy, we take our casting very serious. And we've been that way from the beginning. And I actually, in the production side, I kind of got my start as a casting director. I've casted over 7 feature films and done all that stuff. So I know the process, the nuts and bolts, at least how I've done it for the indie film. I know it's a lot different in Hollywood. And you have like, you're talking with agents who have name actors and all that stuff. And that's a whole other layer. But like the nuts and bolts of just finding that day player, that person, and or finding unknown talent is kind of what I specialized in an indie film. And so it's kind of funny that ironically I'm an actor and a casting director who's making a show about casting directors, but we take the casting very serious. And it's serious is like, is this the right person for the role? Do they make us laugh? Are they funny? Is it? And honestly, I, as a casting director, and especially for this show, and because it's a small budgeted project, we don't have the opportunity to bring in some of these huge working actors in LA and in New York that are on all these shows. We're looking for up and coming actors that are like diamonds in the rough, that are just looking for their shot. And we definitely have a Vegas bias. So we throughout the casting process, of course, the first thing we look at is your headshot. So actors, and this is important for me too, I need to get new headshots, but make sure that your pictures look like you. 100%, not the best version of you. Well, maybe the best version of you on a normal day, but make sure you look like your dang headshot. Because if you don't, we see you and you're like, well, that's not the person that we brought in. You're going to lose your chance. So yeah, I just went off on a whole like thing, but I just want everybody to know that if there's like artists out there, and surprising like how many people just have like, it's like, well, just go out in your backyard and you can get a good picture of yourself. So make sure you look like your dang headshots. Back to my casting process. Sorry. Yeah. So the main things I'm looking at in the casting process is, do you look like the character that we're looking for? And I usually like it if they have an acting reel, but not necessarily. And especially if you're in Vegas, if you submit, I'm more than likely just going to give you a shot because I want everybody in Vegas to have an opportunity. And then outside of Vegas, we also cast on like all the casting sites out there. Generally, I stick to the people who have reels and have headshots, and everybody has a resume. It's honestly very rare that I may look a quick glance at a person's resume, specifically if it's like there's a skill I'm looking for. But most of the time, it's like, look, all right, you're probably good enough, or you have a reel, so at least you've done some acting. Here's your shot. Show us what you can do. Send us a tape of you doing the audition. And that's how I've worked most of the time, because I don't care what you've done in the past. What I care about is, are you right for the character? And can you be professional enough to follow the directions of the casting notice and give us your best performance? And, surprisingly, there's a lot of like even professional actors that don't read the casting notice correctly or the character notes correctly or know how to follow the directions. And, those are such important things because those tell us whether you can follow directions on set and you can work as a professional. And if you can't do that in the casting process, you're probably not going to do that on set. So, and I feel like I'm very proud of us finding these people that, they really earn their spot by auditioning for us, and B, that they really fit the casting well. And I feel like we've done very well with just being able to just do what we have, not having the Hollywood connections and having the budget to pay some of the Hollywood actors and all that sort of stuff. That was a long answer. I talked for a long time.
It's perfect because I have a few questions because we're going to go on. I have a question about what you said about people not matching their resumes. And I've heard that before, but I've never had the opportunity to actually sit down with somebody and be like, how often does that happen?
Oh, yeah.
Like all the time?
All the time. Like so much. People will send, like, I don't care so much about hair color. Like if you just be like, oh, here's my headshot, but I just had to dye it blonde because of XYZ. I'm like, sure, whatever. Not a problem. But they'll just have these pictures where they, are a lot thinner than they currently are, or they look completely so much older, or they're made up a certain way, and then you see them in person and that's not how they actually look.
Okay.
So don't glamorize yourself. Just make yourself look as you would on a normal day, but maybe better. Just like that kind of best version of yourself on a normal day. Don't, for guys, if you trying to how to say this nicely, like, I guess, but I was saying, just look like yourself. There's plenty of opportunities for everybody to audition, and for whatever types. Like, if you're not the right type of the audition, you're just wasting everybody's time.
Mm-hmm. That I've heard that a lot as well, which is why I don't go to auditions that are 5'5" and over.
Yeah,
because I'm not 5'5".
Right. Okay. Having said that, you can get booked if you're not the exact right height, and I've seen it. But the reason you're not going to do it by going to these auditions where they're checking your height. You're going to get booked if you get a private audition, or you happen to have networked with this choreographer and they're like, well, they're not the exact right height, but I know that I might work for them before, and so we can just figure it out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, that's another thing, is like, it's great to audition, but honestly, it's better if you develop connection with the producers and stuff like that. They're much more likely to overlook something if they want to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So
make friends and be great to work with.
Yes, exactly. Like, the two best things you can do is show up on time and don't be an asshole. Those are like the two. And it's surprisingly how many people can't do those things. And surprisingly how many people can't do those things but still get booked somehow. That kind of is like, I don't know how that happens, but they have blackmail on producers or something. But
the owner of my school always said, happy to be here, ready to work. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And so it's drilled into my head, but it's easy, if you're there doing it for the right reasons. But I digress, because I have to ask, how, if anybody, hopefully everybody who listens decides to watch your show, how realistic is your show compared to what really happens?
I don't think it's that realistic, to be honest. Typically, a real casting is mostly self-tape these days, and we don't really portray that because that's pretty boring. It's literally just like a casting director watching a video for 10 to 30 seconds, or if they're really good, they'll watch it all the way through and then making a snap decision from there and going on. And we do get excited, but I think for us, like, the casting process it's more exciting if people are in the room. And, we'll do live castings. Everything is kind of transferred to online. Like, everything is like self-tape auditions, and even for dancers and for singers and stuff, which is kind of wild to me. But I mean, it also saves some time. I feel like it gives people an opportunity who maybe would be great for a show, but they have a hard time learning lines fast or learning choreography fast or whatever. But they can learn it fast enough, but like the pressure and the timing might be hard in the moment. Like, there's a lot of pressure to be perfect in that moment. But if you're taping, you can do it for hours until you get that perfect submission. So I think there is some kind of advantage to that, but it's not necessarily. There's also, it's hard to beat. I personally prefer in person, because you can make a human connection with somebody and you can get the feeling that you're performing for somebody. And, that comes from my stage and theater background, I guess. But so back to realisticness. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just done for dramatic effect, more than keeping it like, this is what it's like when they go into audition. But we do kind of like everything, it's a comedy. So it's sort of a hyper exaggerated state generally. Like, there's conflict and there's energy, and the stakes are always so high for comedy over small things, and that in real life is like, really, is that like such a big deal? But I mean, and it goes to like when you watch Friends, it's a perfect example. Like, Ross will come in there and be like, the stakes are so high over someone eating a sandwich, and he's just like, someone ate my sandwich, and it's hilarious because it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, it's so important that somebody ate your sandwich. Or like Seinfeld is another thing too, like, the soup Nazi guy, anything like that. So that's sort of where comedy sits at, is the stakes are high about really small problems. Sometimes, and sometimes not, but that's kind of how things work in that manner. So yeah, I don't know. It's fiction. So is it realistic? Not really, but it's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch. Absolutely. I was cracking up earlier. So from where you guys started, you said your original pilot, from where it's at now and its episodes on YouTube, did it change a lot? Or is it like exactly the same?
I think we've slowly figured out like what is our storytelling process and how we want to do the show. And it's very different from doing a trailer to doing a full pilot is very different from what we are currently doing now, because generally with the pilot, you have the A, B, and C storyline or an A and B storyline. And with our episodes, because they're so short, it's literally you have one storyline, one kind of just thing that you can talk about and go beginning, middle, end, done as quick as possible. So in that manner, it's very different. And then it's just sort of a process of, I think, and especially now in season 2, we've refined it a little bit more in that we make sure we have a little bit of a formula where it's like we set it up. It's a mockumentary. So basically we'll do a little bit of story and then we'll cut to the actors kind of talking about what just happened, which is a great joke delivery mechanism because everybody likes to just sort of comment on, the conflict that just sort of happened. And you kind of get an idea of what the characters are thinking during the talking heads while the scenario is played out. So it's just a super fun format. And I love that format. It's always been one of my favorites ever since like The Office and Parks and Rec and all that stuff. So that was like definitely like on purpose. We're doing a mockumentary and continue to make this format. It's super fun. But yeah, we sort of refined that process of like, okay, an episode should start off with either a talking head or some sort of scenario that hooks you into like, what is the episode about? And then we sort of talk about it and then credits. And then we play out the story to the resolution and so forth. But it always sort of just needs to follow that format. And we've kind of wavered in and out of that in season 1. It's not always that way, but we're a little more consistent with it in season 2. So I think, yeah, should be. We'll see how it is together in season 2. But yeah, in season 1, there are a few episodes where it just sort of is like, and here's just right into the story. And maybe sometimes there's little to no talking heads or whatever, but we kind of also, season 2 is a lot longer. Like each episode is between 6 to 10 minutes, I think. Well, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, somewhere between 6 to 10 minutes.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Why have you decided to make them longer?
Money. No, but basically for YouTube specifically, you want to have videos that are at least 6 minutes long. So that way, when you have a monetized channel, and this is super boring, I know, guys, but it's also
real. This is exactly what I mean. Things influence our decisions all the time. And as a show wanting to provide for itself, you have to take these things into consideration.
Absolutely. And so I was like, guys, we got to do longer scripts this time. And so, all the scripts were a lot longer. And the reason why is so you can, when you monetize a channel, it's you can have an ad in the beginning, an ad in a mid-roll ad. That's where, those are the highest paying ads for YouTube, and then an ad at the end. So you always, if you can do 6 minutes, then it's likely you'll get a mid-roll ad, and that's good. If they're less than that, you might not. So there you go. That's why. And also it's more fun. Also, we're insane for making, well, we added a shoot day, but I didn't figure in the fact how much longer everything is. So I think we did 20 pages a day season 1. And season 2, we did 28 pages a day, which I do not recommend to any producers because that's absolutely insane. And I swear I say this every time, and I'm like, we're not going to do that ever again. We're going to make it 15 pages a day, which is still a lot, but we can move through it fast and have a good time. So, and you witnessed it. You saw like how crazy it was. We're doing the last episode, which you were part of, and what that was like. And it's like we move super fast and it's crazy. So
Yeah, in and out was real quick. I was looking around. I was like, I feel like I need to be helping or doing or getting out of the way because it was efficient. And it was happening.
Yeah,
it was happening. But that was going to be my next question. Was it's got to be more fun to do a little bit longer episodes for you guys?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think it will help everybody connect to the characters more if it can have like a story arc for people to really find out more about who they are. And really, that's what a show is about. You can make a show about anything. I mean, if you talked about, especially a lot of these mockumentaries, like if you're just like, yeah, it's a show about a bunch of people in an office, that sounds terrible. Like, why? But if you fall in love with those characters, then you're hooked. And that's really the goal, is like the show can be about anything as long as you like the characters and you're in love. You want to see what happens with them. And at that point, you can just make a show about whatever you want, as long as the characters are interesting and you fall in love with them, or you fall in love with hating them.
People care about people.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do have a really selfish question because I'm just very curious.
Mm-hmm.
So if you started as an actor and then became a dancer, why did you decide, where was that switch?
Okay.
This has nothing to do with A-list casting. This is purely a selfish question.
Sure. I was a child actor and I just wasn't exposed to dance. And I kind of stopped. I just stopped. My mom was like, this is really hard on me and it doesn't seem like you're super, super into it. I was, but I wasn't like, I don't know, I was a kid. So I was also into like computers and video games and whatever. And so I think I was around 8 or 9. She was like, you know what? If you really want to do this, you can, let's wait till you're 16 and you can drive yourself to auditions. And, if I had never gotten back into it, fine, I would have gone or something. But it always seems like I was in a collision course with the arts, because it wasn't even that my mom really was trying to put me into acting and stuff. It would just be that we, growing up in LA and around Hollywood people and stuff, there were people into it, but I would just come home and be like, hey mom, I cast in a music video they were looking for kids at school. And so, and then I would come home and be like, hey, I am booked in a short film called Sweet Billy and the Gang about like eating sugar is bad or something. I don't know, whatever. And my mom's like, oh, wow. And I would get up and like in restaurants when I was a kid and just start singing songs to people in the Italian restaurant, stupid stuff like that. So my mom's like, all right, I guess he's has this drive to be a performer. But yeah, like I said, I took a pause from like 9 until I was about 15. And my mom really wanted me to do more extracurricular activities. So I was like doing sports, and she was like, you should get into instruments, because I played piano when I was younger, stopped doing that. And my dad played trumpet. So she found a trumpet teacher and I started playing trumpet. I was never like that amazing at it, but it was fun. And the trumpet teacher was also a musical theater director, and she wanted to do like community outreach musical theater. And it was such a great thing for kids. Shout out to my musical theater director, Shelley. She's an amazing person, and I will always be indebted to her for helping me on my career. But that's kind of where I became a dancer. So they were like, she was like, come to the thing. We're going to go perform. And I was like, I don't know. And I went to the first rehearsals, and there was a lot of hot girls there. And I was like, oh, maybe I could stay.
Hooked. You were hooked.
I was in. And I was like, oh, this is actually a good way to meet girls or whatever. And there was my musical theater career kind of just started from there, doing like community theater. And we just did all sorts of, like, I learned all sorts of different types of dancing. And there was a very strong masculine lead performer, and he also was like the choreographer, is an older guy, Damien, who you mentioned in my bio. And he was kind of like my role model. It's like, you can dance, but be like a dude. You can be masculine, and you can, dance cool. And he really showed me like musical theater dancing and hip hop and all that sort of stuff. And so I really got into it, and I just started taking lessons. And fortunately, and especially in my generation, like they needed guys to dance a lot. Like there was like, if you had some sort of rhythm and you looked like you could sort of move and you wanted to do it, you could get work. And so, I feel bad for some of these girls who have been training since they're 3 and like they can't get a job. And I just like walk in, I was like, yeah, I started dancing last year. That's just what it was. It's changed a little bit now. Like everybody is so good. Like, and you have to be so good to be a professional dancer. But back then, this was in like 90, 95, 96 when I started working, dancing professionally and teaching like 4 years later by the time I was 19. So that's sort of like where I was. And I was still doing acting and stuff, but it was just easier for me to book a job as a dancer, as a male dancer, than it was as an actor. That's just the nature of it. There's more demand. Like there's a million white guys that are, whatever, trying to get an acting job, but there wasn't so many guys in dance. So that's just sort of guided me in my career. And I was a professional dancer from 19 till I still dance, but not
I saw your pirouettes. They're beautiful.
Oh, no, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Agree to disagree. I watched, I was like, oh my God. But, they could be, anyway, they could be better. That was the one good thing is I did work a lot on my turns, and I was always like a pretty good turner. Yeah, I don't know. Professional. Yeah, I worked professionally, and then that brought me to Las Vegas, and I was in Jubilee for 7.5 years, which is a transcendent show that was here on the Strip for over 35 years. And it was just some of the best times of my life. I met my wife there, and it was just a great time. And yeah, it's sad that it's not there anymore. But leaving that show sort of, I looked around and was like, what do I want to do? Like, I don't think there's a show on the Strip for me to dance in anymore. And so that sort of brought me back to acting. And actually what really brought me back to acting was the clown. I got really involved with the clown community here in Vegas, all the clowns and from Cirque du Soleil and stuff. And it's such a cool freaking art form, and it's so hard. But what it really teaches you about is vulnerability. And you really have to have a connection with the audience and be vulnerable and be there in the moment with what's going on, or else they don't believe you. And that's so hard. And also being so hard, but just having the courage to go up there and be like, what's the worst can happen? Because it's like, it's very much a pass fail art form. You either are funny or you're not. And if you're not, it is rough. You are not, it is hard, but also you can learn from that. And I feel like I did. So like working with all the clowns, I was like super, super into it. And I still love the art form, and still there's a shout out to the 1230 Clown Show. I don't know if you know those guys, do you? Oh, you definitely have to have Benedict on and talk about it.
Okay. If you mentioned that, I was like, I don't think I really don't know much about that community.
Yeah.
Or art form.
Oh man, you should go. It's so good for dancers to go.
I want to. Okay, yes.
It's so fun, but also can be really like, oh my God, this is terrible. I was so bad. But the thing that's good about that is it gave me so much courage, because if you can just get up there and fail utterly and you feel bad about yourself, but also that's it. Like nothing, you didn't die. Like nothing happened. The world didn't end. Like nothing happened other than you just went up and you weren't funny. Like, okay, but you can learn from that. And I feel like that sort of helped me find this willingness to not be good, but also try to get better, and courage to like, I very rarely have a super ton of nerves performing or doing anything because of all of that, because it was so crazy and nerve-wracking to just have so much courage to get up in front of just people staring at you and, doing this clown art form. And so from there, I just like kind of, I think it like flipped a switch in my brain to help me with my acting. Honestly, I just stopped being so in my head and be like, oh, well, I'm going to, do this acting stuff. And if people like it, good. And if they don't, well, that's okay too. And so from there, I just started booking in like independent film stuff here in Vegas. There was like a short film that I auditioned for and I booked that. And then I met my friend Adrian McLean on that shoot. And she kind of helped introduce me to all the little Facebook sites and all like a few people. And it just sort of grew from there. And that's how I got into acting again.
I love that.
Yeah.
I should have asked you that earlier. I was just sitting here like, oh, I love this. Is so cool. It's just I love hearing the full circle moments when people think that they're going to be pulled in a different direction and end up just getting pulled back, or how it all circle of their life in a way. So thank you for sharing that. Again, jumping topic. What are you most excited for season 2 of A-List Casting?
Oh man, like what episode or what am I?
Yeah, any new or exciting things coming up in this season to come that you're really hyped for?
I'm just hyped for people to see like how we've grown. Mm-hmm. I feel like each iteration is getting better and better, and it looks better, and it's smoother. And so I really want to see people to see like how the growth of the project from the first trailer to here. And I not everybody's been exposed to those early iterations, but at least they can see like what it was like from the trailer to this first season to season 2. And I think, everybody is leveled up from season 1 to season 2 as far as like how we're telling the story, and everybody sort of knows a role. I think one thing that's really fun is when we get the main leads together and people who have been with that have had these characters for years now, and we start reading through the scripts, how quickly they just kind of jump into, because they know the character now, and seeing that kind of vibe. What else am I looking forward to? Well, we're pretty ambitious this season. From the beginning, we've always been trying to do like a musical dance number. And it's always been a budget thing. Like how do we get like all these dancers and we have to go to a different space. And it's like, independent film is very much time and money. How much time and money can you invest and expect a return? And I think we figured it out pretty well how to do. So I'm very excited that we did get our dance episode, and we got all of our leads dancing too, which is super cute, even though they're not really dancers, and they did really well. And we hired Abbie as well as a few other professional dancers, and then a couple of the series regulars are, they're good movers, and actually Alejandro is a professional dancer too. So it was good to just be like, okay, well, maybe we can't afford to hire like 8 just brand new dancers, but let's use the cast. So we had a few of our series regulars that could move well be in the episode, and then of course the goal is always to feature me as a dancer, because it's just kind of funny to see my character I play Philip, and he's the indie film director that they're constantly paired with, and much to the casting director's chagrin, because he's kind of a jerk. And so it's just kind of funny to see that side of Philip where he's dancing. We've always pictured that as something very funny to look at. So it was fun for me and Alex Buckner, aka Peaches, to choreograph how Philip would do his dancing. And it was like, I think it's like a very, we came up with the idea. It was like, it would be a very fun mixture of like Michael Jackson and Fosse. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And so, and those are things that I, been fairly comfortable doing as well. Like I grew up watching Michael Jackson, and I love I felt like pretty strong in the musical theater style of dancing anyway. So I felt like that's something that I could accomplish. And it was funny talking to Zach, my co-director, and he was like, are you sure you want to do like, whimsical, like musical theater? And I was like, oh yeah, that's so Philip. And he's like, yeah, but you've always been so good at like street dancing and hip hop and all that stuff. And I'm like, maybe like, yeah, that style like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but now that style is like, I love doing it, but it's not it's not really who I am, and I don't dance every day like I was. So I was like, I think this is a better fit for, what a 40-year-old director would think he could do. So I definitely was glad to see we finally got a dance episode in. We've been planning that forever, and we got to do it. And then also our head writer Nick wanted to do a stunts episode, and the fact that we pulled that off was pretty crazy. And like, major shout out to Hannah, our lead actor. She plays Laura, the assistant, and she is such a gamer, man. She's a tough girl, and she just, she's like, nope, let's break boards on me. Let's do bottles. Let's do all the stunts. And, I knew that she could do stunts because we actually cast her in one of my other short films that was very action. And we actually have physically had fight scenes together before. And I know that she was good, but, it's a different thing when you have a piece of plywood, or not really, it's balsa, but, a 2x4 smashed over your back. It hurts. And doing all that stuff. And she's just like, nope, let's do it. So she took like 5, I think she took 5 shots with the plywood. Were you there for that?
I was there when you guys were filming that, and I was like, damn, she's getting it.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I was really cool to watch it and hear it, and then just she's so dialed in the whole time. It was amazing.
Yeah, major shout out to Hannah. Like, she was the one actor that was in every single episode, and I was like, just get yourself ready. We really want to feature you a lot in this season, and just be ready. You're gonna be there the whole time. So, and she was there for it. She's like, I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm so excited, and I feel like she really killed it in the show. So, kudos to all the cast. Like, everybody's so good. So, just happy to have them. Feel lucky to have them. Honestly,
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you think your experience working with the clowns and having that, I guess, experience influenced your decisions or writing in your projects afterwards?
I think you basically learn facets of things that can transfer over to many art forms. So, like, I feel like it's so great to cross-train. Even like as a dancer, if you can cross-train to multiple styles, it's super good for you. Like, you become so versatile. And I feel like learning how to do comedy can help you as a dramatic actor. If you can learn any sort of other art form, it can definitely inform anything that you're doing artistically. I definitely learned a lot about so many different rules of comedy that we apply a lot, and from clown and from improv and all that stuff. And yeah, so there's definitely a lot of things that you can take and from those art forms and put it into comedic. As far as the writing, like, I have creative input, but most of the writing is actually up to Nick and my co-director Zach. And I definitely give notes and everything, but I let them do that for the most part, because I'm so focused on the logistics and a lot of the other moving parts that, like, this has to be a collaboration. And if I'm doing everything, and I'm not, I can write pretty. I am a writer, but I generally don't say this is my script. That I always have a collaborator on all of my projects. And creatively, like, Zach and I have been working together for 25 years or so, and as well as being like best friends. And so we collaborate together really well. And so it's a great partnership to work with him. And so, yeah, I do say that my creative input is generally like, okay, like, comedically, the timing of pacing of this and that needs to be here because of XYZ. So, like, I do have a lot of that input, but as far as like the actual writing, I leave that to those guys.
Mm-hmm. So before we get to wrapping it up, I have to ask the question that I ask every one of my guests. What is your funniest moment as a performer or a director, or anything you've done along the way that stands out the most and brings you the biggest smile?
Okay, so I mean, pranks are always fun on set. I have a good time with that. One thing that came to mind to me was I was shooting this short film, and it's such a great concept, and I hope that one day that they make it into a feature. Shout out to my friends Kelly and John and Brian and all those guys. But I was playing, it's a comedy about a serial killer who's so bad at killing people that they all die before he can actually kill them. So it's super fun, and it's called Murder for Dummies. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube. I don't even know where it is. Like, I'm not sure if you can see it anywhere. Super funny, and kudos to them for making this project. And they cast me as the lead guy, and I had this epic scene in the beginning where it's supposed to be, interrogating and like torturing the lead girl, and obviously she escapes and I can't kill her and whatever. But the opening of the scene is me like sharpening my knife. And oh gosh, how's that song? Sorry, something about I'm afraid. Oh, now I'm going to ruin the story. Shoot. Oh no. But anyway, basically what it led into is the lines perfectly led into the song. And so I'm sitting there sharpening my knife, and then I can't. Oh man, no, I'm so annoyed. I should have looked up the song, but I literally just start turning around and singing and dancing to the song while they're filming. It's totally like no one knew what was happening, and so I put on a full like dance performance, and literally the crew had to leave the room because they were laughing so hard. Oh man, I gotta find the song. It's like we'll put it in the notes, or maybe I can't look it up. Anyway, I started dancing disco, and they just literally the poor cinematographer was like, I can't even be in the room when you say the lines now because it's just going to remind me of that moment. So he literally had to hit record and leave, even when I was just doing the regular scene. And I was like, I love this moment. And I think they did like a blooper reel doing that. I should try to dig it up. If I can, I'll send it to you and you can like find it. But yeah, I think that was like one of my favorite moments.
Awesome.
I have like a really embarrassing one where when I was a professional dancer and I was dancing in Nutcracker, and I was doing TV promo for a Latin TV station, and it was at 6 a.m. And they're like, okay, you're going to be on live TV. You're going to perform, 30 seconds of your dance or whatever. So I come out in the Nutcracker thing, and my dance partner was Latino, so she's speaking Spanish and stuff, and I don't speak anything. But they're like, okay, you're going to go on, whatever. We go and we perform the dance, and I had to do what's called a double tour, which non-dancers, it's like where you jump and spin twice in the air and land in the position. And that doesn't go so well sometimes at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on live TV. And for me, I have a videotape of me on live television trying to do this jump and just totally bailing on it and falling on my ass on the floor. And much to my chagrin, my friends got a hold of this tape and just started replaying it in slow motion. I mean, going like jumping like at an angle, like kind of sideways in the air, just falling my ground. So then I had to get up from that and then do a whole interview in Spanish where I don't understand everything. And literally everybody's just looking at me like, really? You're a professional dancer? And I have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm hoping they're not like bringing up the fact that I just bailed on live TV. But yeah, that's probably like my most embarrassing. Oh, at first I was afraid. I was petrified. What's that?
I will survive.
I will survive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. Because that was my first line, was like, at first I was afraid. And then I went into something else, right? But I'm sitting there sharpening a knife, and like the line went into like, at first I was afraid that, I couldn't do this or blah, 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 but in a very mean, menacing serial killer way. So I started off that way. But then I was like, at first I was afraid. I was petrified. And then just went into this full like dance with the knife and disco and shit. And like literally my co-star is tied up and blindfolded, so she can't see what's going on. And she's like, what the fuck is happening? Sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Go for it.
Yeah. So there we go. I'm glad that the words finally came back to me. Sorry to all those people who had to sit there and listen to me try to think of it for like 10 minutes. But
oh, that's okay. It's the fact that both of your stories were both caught on camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far, you've been the only guest that has had their funny moments caught on camera.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh. I will try and find that clip for you. I'll text them and be like, hey, do we? Because I still work with the cinematographer, John. So it's probably on my computer somewhere. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing those. So before we end, is there anything else you'd like to share about A-list casting, about you?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get as much of grow a fan base on YouTube. So I would love it if everybody could go on to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, watch the full season. You can watch, we have the full season up there in one episode. You can watch the whole thing in one thing, or you can just watch it in little bits. It's easily consumable, 3 to 5 minute episodes, and it's real fun. So hopefully you can watch that. And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at Michael Forsh, Forsch, at all social media platforms.
And it'll be in the description box for you to click and subscribe and follow and see what season 2 has to offer.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for season 2 to come out, and you can see our very own host, Abbie Campbell, dancing.
I'll be there.
And yeah, she's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Before the Curtain. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever it is you listen to the podcast. We love to hear your virtual round of applause. If you know of a production or artist that deserves to have their story told, send us an email or message us on Instagram by clicking the link in the description.